Hello, I'm Harley Shaiken. I'm chair of the Center for Latin American Studies and the class of 1930 professor at the University of California, Berkeley. I'd like to introduce this year's U.S.-Mexico Futures Forum. Let me start with the obvious. The United States and Mexico share an extraordinary history, highly integrated economies, cultures that spill over boundaries, and a 2,000-mile border. All of this, as the song lyric goes, makes breaking up hard to do. Yet the title of Alan Riding's insightful book about Mexico that appeared over 2 decades ago still seems all too apt in the United States. Distant Neighbors. The U.S.-Mexico Futures Forum, now in its 7th year, seeks to shrink the distance that separates our two countries. The forum is jointly organized by the Center for Latin American Studies at UC Berkeley and the International Studies Department at ITAM, and is funded by the Rockefeller and the William and Flora Hewlett Foundations. The forum brings together scholars and political leaders, public intellectuals and journalists, leaders from social movements and business executives. The participants include those with long experience analyzing the U.S.-Mexico relationship and those who bring a fresh perspective to the table. What unifies all participants are original perspectives and an open mind. The goal of the forum is to establish an ongoing dialogue and to develop creative approaches to the issues facing both countries. These goals are realized through a year-round public program on the UC Berkeley campus, working groups and research projects that involve faculty and graduate students, publications, a website, and meetings that alternate between the two countries. The 5th meeting of the Futures Forum took place in Mexico City at the end of March 2008. We faced a tough, though not unusual, paradox. While working through joint issues has seldom been so important for the U.S. and Mexico, the relationship is largely off the radar in the U.S. That said, we focused on 3 critical sessions: energy, immigration, and drugs and violence, and added a short session on the state of the U.S. election leading up and through the primary season. Our energy session combined a discussion of reform of Mexico's giant state-owned oil company, Pemex, with an examination of the importance of alternative energy at a moment when global warming has emerged as a critical issue and the damage of not acting is both potentially catastrophic and irreversible. Dan Kamen, the class of 1935 Distinguished Professor of Energy at UC Berkeley and a presenter at the session, pointed out that policy is going to be the place where we win or lose the global warming battle. He added that the dividend for going green is real. You get more jobs when you invest in energy efficiency and renewables. Foreign participants also explored new directions for immigration reform, reflecting on the meltdown in the U.S. Congress in 2007 on this issue, and seeking to define the best approaches for addressing this contentious but critical question in the future. The challenge of drugs and violence for both Mexico and the United States was the focus of a 3rd session that ranged from the destructive effects of drug violence on Mexican communities in general, and on journalists in particular, to the policy choices both countries face. Our goal was to bring together innovative Mexican and U.S. voices in an ongoing dialogue, to present and develop cutting-edge research on issues from both ITAM and UC Berkeley, as well as other institutions, address issues that are on the agenda in creative ways, and introduce issues that ought to be on the agenda but aren't, and ultimately to shape thoughtful policy proposals and goals. What follows is our brief highlights from this year's forum.